It's hard to believe that it's been nearly 3 years since Ford first brought back the Maverick nameplate to the States after a nearly 50-year-long hiatus. And while the Maverick continues to be a compact, unibody-based pickup truck, it has proved that Americans really want a small truck like this because last year Ford sold nearly 100,000 units here in America. Now for 2024, the Maverick stays pretty much the same. And to remind ourselves just how good this small truck is, Ford has sent us over this 2024 Maverick Lariat with the standard 2-liter turbocharged EcoBoost engine. It offers around 250 horsepower under the hood with standard all-wheel drive and a price tag that's going to start at just over $24,000 with destination charge. So as you can see this week, we've got this Atlas Blue Maverick Lariat, and the big question I want answered for those of you who basically are wanting a small pickup truck, but you have the budget for like a compact to mid-size car, how does the brand new 2024 Ford Maverick continue to stack up? Stay tuned to find out. So before we start talking about the exterior styling of the latest Maverick, I thought I'd pop the hood and show you guys what's powering this thing. And one of the most unique aspects of this truck is the fact that Ford continues to offer it with a hybrid electric 4-cylinder powertrain that's optional. The standard powertrain for 2024 is now the 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder that is the signature engine that is found in a lot of Ford vehicles. Now under the hood, you should be quite familiar with this powertrain because this is the signature engine that you find in a lot of Ford vehicles. It's a 2-liter EcoBoost turbocharged direct injection 4-cylinder. You also find this engine in the Ford Escape and in the Ford Bronco Sport. It makes 250 horsepower, 277 pound-feet of torque in the Maverick. It all goes out through an 8-speed automatic transmission. That's a torque converter automatic built by Aisin. And fuel economy, in case you're wondering, is rated at 22 in the city and 29 on the highway. This vehicle does run on regular gas. It has around a 16.5-gallon fuel tank. You're looking at around 400 miles of range on a full tank. Now keep in mind, the hybrid powertrain only comes with front-wheel drive. It's an extra $500 to go with the hybrid. That delivers up to 191 horsepower combined, but you're going to do roughly twice the MPG. So it could be an option if you guys don't need the extra performance or the all-wheel drive grip. Towing capacity is 2,000 pounds for the standard Maverick. My test car here with the tow package will tow up to 4,000 pounds, which is pretty good. As this truck sits, it weighs in at around 3,700 pounds. And Ford doesn't quote a 0 to 60 time, but we'll test it out when we get this truck out on the road. Closing the hood, let's go ahead and talk about the exterior styling of the Maverick for 2024, which it didn't get any changes this year, but as you can see, this is still a relatively handsome looking truck. But remember, I say truck in quotes because while it does have a pickup bed in the back, this is actually built off of a unibody architecture, something that it shares with the Escape and the Bronco Sport. You can see the front fascia, the front styling is very unique to the Maverick, and I think I actually really like it still. It's aged very well. You can see all Mavericks come with their reflector style LED headlights. You have an LED low and high beam, an LED daytime running light, incandescent turn signals, as you can see, with the signature Ford corporate grille with the kind of silver bar that intersects in between the center of the grille. The grille and front fascia can change if you guys go for like the Tremor off-road package or black appearance package. Down here you can see you have some functional air intake openings. No front camera or parking sensors. Remember, this is pretty low on the totem pole for Ford's vehicles. But overall, I think this truck is still relatively handsome, painted in this Atlas blue. It just looks a little bit weak if you guys don't go for the FX4 off-road or the Tremor package or even like the Lariat or the black appearance package. But moving around the side profile, you can see being built off of a unibody architecture does give this truck more of a lower ride height. It has around 8.6 inches of ground clearance with all-wheel drive. Go for the Tremor off-road package, it'll increase the ground clearance to 9.3, and you'll also get some all-terrain tires. But overall length, this truck is actually on the bigger side for the compact scale at 199 inches long with a 121-inch long wheelbase. It only comes as one cab configuration, crew cab 4 doors with a short 4.5-foot bed, which is still relatively usable, but get a Ranger if you want more storage capacity. You can see the wheels on my Lariat tester. These are the included multi-spoke with like a bicolor arrangement where you have a machine finish with a black inner pocket. You have all disc brakes. You have an independent front, independent rear suspension as well. The tires, you can see these are a street tire and a 225 by 60 R18. Ford will happily sell you a Maverick with all-terrain tires if you guys go for the off-road packages, which I think is probably worth the extra charge. You can see there's a Lariat badge here, a fake-looking vent, black painted mirrors, no integrated turn signals, no cameras, and the My Test car is missing a sunroof, which is an extra $1,000. It's an a la carte option. No chrome along the actual trim, and you can see you can really tell this is a unibody truck from the fact that there's no like cut line here that separates the cab from the actual bed. That's something that all body-on-frame trucks are going to have. but obviously not with a unibody configuration. Then looking at the rear of the Maverick, you can see it has that traditional pickup truck shape, unlike the Santa Cruz, its main rival, which tries to look more like a lifestyle vehicle. You can see the taillights are all incandescent design, incandescent turn signals, brake lights, and reverse lights. There's Maverick stamped out in the back. There's an all-wheel drive badge here. And then with the tow package, you get that standard 4-pin connector there with the tow hitch receiver. Like I said earlier, up to 4,000 pounds is the max towing with this model. Now, opening up the tailgate, you can see it kind of just cheaply falls to remind you where this truck sits on the totem pole for Ford trucks. But you can see with the spray-in bed liner and the cargo tie-down hooks, this bed can carry up to 1,500 pounds of capacity in the actual bed itself, which is pretty remarkable. The truck is also wide enough to where you can fit 4-foot sheets wide plywood, or 4 feet wide plywood, like flat down, laying down in the actual bed. However, if it's over 8 feet long, it's gonna go past, obviously, the actual tailgate. You can get it with a bed extender, and you can also get it with a cargo cover. If you'd like, their bed is called flex bed, and you can see if you open this up, there's like a nice little hidden storage area there that can support up to 20 pounds, supposedly. And then over here to the side, you'll find some LED lighting and an actual just standard household power outlet. Ford doesn't offer their Pro Power on board that you'll find like in the F-150, for example. But for those of you who, again, need to do truck things but don't necessarily need to tow and haul heavy loads, this is certainly still much more practical versus any SUV or any car. But just keep in mind, that unless you get the tonneau cover, the space here is not covered or lockable. So moving on to the interior of the 2024 Ford Maverick. Let's go ahead and take a look at the key fob before we get inside. You can see this is the current corporate Ford Intelligent Access key. I believe this key is standard if you guys go for the Lariat trim with the Intelligent Access. You can see it has your usual buttons here for unlock, lock, remote start, and panic function. There's no button here to open up the tailgate remotely because remember, the Maverick is pretty low on Ford's vehicle lineup. You can see there's a Ford logo. I don't love this key because of how big it is. And then Ford, I believe on newer models, offers their phone as a key function, but not on the Maverick because this has their older Sync 3 system, which I'll talk about when we get inside the vehicle. Now you can see door handle is very traditional. If you touch this little area here, that locks the door. The mirrors don't offer an auto fold feature, no integrated turn signals, like I said. Touch the back of the door handle, that unlocks the door because there's a sensor on the back, and you can see my test truck with the Atlas blue exterior has a really nice color combination here with the desert brown leather interior, although it's technically a fake leather. They call it ActiveX. These ActiveX seats are standard on the Lariat trim. The other trims of the Maverick will come with a cloth seat. I think for a fake leather, they look really nice. I love the two-tone look with the contrasting stitching. These seats are also 3-level heated, and you also get an 8-way power driver's seat on the driver's side, manual on the passenger side. No memory seats. Remember, this is, one of their more affordable vehicles, but it still makes a pretty great first impression when you're first taking a peek of the inside. You can see that blue interior kind of continues on where it's kind of like, again, a brown and a blue interior theme. This upper portion of the door panel is all hard touch plastic, which doesn't feel great, but it's very durable feeling. You have some black plastic for the door handles. It is padded over here with the ActiveX. There's kind of a cheap material here where it has kind of like a recycled material. This tends to show scratches relatively easily, which is a shame, but you do have some pretty cool details here like the exposed screws, which look nice. This is kind of the grab handle to open and close the door. Love the brown trim. You have the upgraded Bang & Olufsen stereo with this truck. This trim, it also sounds pretty decent if you guys are an audiophile. And then these holders here in the doors, they were designed to basically hold those big water bottle flasks that are refillable. Which you can see there's even a picture of one there. Ford was thinking about that when they were designing the interior and making sure you had lots of cubbies and lots of storage compartments for when you actually live with the truck. Now getting inside, you can see because of that 8.6 inches of ground clearance, you do have a nice easy step-in height. As I close the door has a somewhat tinny sound when it shuts. Remember, this is built off of the unibody C2 architecture, which is perfectly fine. You can see once you get inside, the start-stop button is located kind of low on the dash. And this model is fully a gas version, so there's no hybrid or mild hybrid, so it has a traditional starter noise. You can see it has that Ford chime that we all know. The instrument panel is kind of a combination of digital and analog with the analog tach and speedometer. And then if you guys want big screens, sadly, Ford only offers the Maverick with an 8-inch Sync 3 head unit. So this head unit is part of their older technology. It includes Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, but I have to connect it via a wired connection here from a USB-C or a USB-A, which at least Ford offers the 2 USB charging ports down here, along with a power outlet. But there's kind of like this empty bin here, which is for storage. They really just need to get rid of that and offer like a 12-inch display or a 10.25-inch display. That's something that I think that Ford really needs to just offer as an optional screen, because it would look really good in the dash. The fact that you have this open portion here just kind of makes the truck feel really old, and I think this screen's going to look dated in a couple of years. It already looks dated now. It's going to look even more dated in a few more years. Now, in terms of the materials, you can see all hard touch plastic on the upper portion, which you kind of expect given the price point of this truck. The steering wheel does have a somewhat nicer feel to it. The leather feels really nice. You have some, contrast, or you have some cross stitching, which is good. You also have a manual tilt and telescoping arrangement for the steering wheel, which is fine. No paddles on the wheel. You have controls here for your audio and your cruise control function. There is adaptive cruise on this truck, but not Ford's Blue Cruise. It's not available. The horn, it actually sounds really loud and kind of in your face considering the size of this truck, which is nice. And then over here you have some actual knobs here for volume, for tuning. You also have some knobs for your dual zone temperature control, which again is also very nice that Ford includes. There's a heated steering wheel, 3-level heated seats. It almost looks like there could be a button here for cooled seats, but as you probably expected, it's not available. If I put the truck into reverse, you can see there's the backup camera, which gives you trajectory. It gives you distance markers, but no parking sensors, no 360 camera, not available on this truck. Not really needed, but it is kind of still a truck. It would be nice to offer, those features. You have a wireless phone charging pad here. Love all the additional storage, which is nice. Your gear selector is down here. Your drive mode selector is here. You can cycle between a normal, a tow haul, a slippery, an eco, and a sport mode. Most of you will probably just end up driving the truck in normal mode. There's lots of more storage over here with your cup holders. It's all hard touch plastic, but the build quality at least feels solid. Like the way that the vents look as well, even though this is a cheap car. There's a lot of design and a lot of textures in here. You can see more exposed screw heads there, which is nice. You have a padded center console here. Open this up. It's actually pretty big. All my camera equipment actually fits in there, which is pretty nice. It's also nice padded over here. The seats also are comfortable and supportive. The 3-level heat works nice, but no cooled seats. Manual passenger seat, like I said. Open this glove box up. You can see it's pretty big. It's damped, but not lined with felt. No auto-dimming rearview mirror or digital camera mirror is available. You do have some LED map lighting in here, which is nice. No sunroof on my test car or test truck. It's an extra $1,000 if you guys want the sunroof. But overall, the interior, it has average to slightly below average materials, but solid build quality. The tech in it, Ford really just needs to upgrade it to Sync 4 to include wireless CarPlay and a bigger screen. But other than that, you get a sense that this is basically a simple work truck that offers some nice tech in it. It'll make a great first impression, especially if you guys are coming from an old vehicle. But again, Ford has much newer tech. They just haven't put it in the Maverick just yet. But let's go ahead and take a look at the back seat area, because this truck only comes as a crew cab configuration. You can see, open up the door, material quality back here is the same hard touch plastic, padded over here, really interesting looking door handle with the exposed stitching. And then you can see, in terms of the legroom space, Ford says there's around 36.9 inches. It's about an inch less if you guys go for the hybrid, because that's where the battery pack lives. You can see the two-tone seats carry over with the ActiveX material. You can also basically pull this little strap and lift the seat up, and reveals some storage underneath here, which is a nice touch. Getting back here, let's go ahead and show you guys the space. You can see at 5'7", this is where I'd have the seat to drive. And there's a pretty decent amount of space in here. So good foot space. There is a hump here that intrudes on the middle passenger. You do have an actual power outlet, 2 USB-C charging ports, or an A and a C. No actual vents back here, but for somebody, or for a small truck, it actually has pretty decent legroom. I can kind of cross my legs, although not very well, but this is actually more rear seat legroom than something like the new Toyota Tacoma. If I fold this seat down, or fold this armrest down, you can see there's a cup holder in addition to having armrests. The truck is wide enough where you could fit 3 people across. This window also slides open. I believe it slides open electrically, or actually maybe it doesn't slide open. It doesn't actually look like it slides open. I lied, it doesn't slide open. In terms of the headroom space, you can see lots of headroom because of the high roof on this truck. Even somebody who's over 6 feet tall will find good headroom. It's just the legroom can be a little bit on the tighter side, but this is pretty comparable, of course, as well to something like the Santa Cruz. The Honda Ridgeline is going to offer more space because technically that's a mid-sized truck. So here we are behind the wheel of the Ford Maverick compact pickup truck. Remember, this vehicle, when it first came out a couple of years ago, it was in such high demand that Ford essentially said that they couldn't take orders anymore for a whole year until they restarted, taking orders last year. But since then, the Maverick has been doing extremely well for Ford, and they've made the 2-liter turbo engine standard. So now if you guys want the hybrid Maverick, it's actually going to cost you a little bit extra for the hybrid. It still is not available with all-wheel drive, which I think continues to slightly hold the Maverick back for me from being the best, compact truck in this segment. Ford keeps saying that they just simply can't build enough hybrids and it's not necessary to put all-wheel drive in it, but I think that it would really just improve the appeal of the hybrid powertrain. But without it, this 2-liter turbo gas engine delivers 250 horsepower. It's hooked up with an 8-speed automatic transmission, and it also comes standard with all-wheel drive. The Maverick Hybrid only comes with front-wheel drive. But let's go ahead and see what we can get. Just quick 0 to 60 test here. We have it in sport mode. We'll brake torque it. That's actually a really impressive time there. 6.4 seconds makes this among the quicker entries. I mean, I can't remember exactly the last time that I got in the Santa Cruz, but I want to say it's pretty similar with the Santa Cruz. Remember, that vehicle is this truck's, most direct rival. It comes with a turbo 2.5-liter with an 8-speed dual clutch transmission, but still that performance is very solid. The hybrid model is going to be about 1.5 seconds to 2 seconds slower. So you don't really buy a vehicle like this for that, but just for demonstration purposes, I wanted to show you that time pretty much keeps up as well with a Honda Ridgeline, the most recent version of the Ridgeline. And it should be enough power for most people on their daily commute. And in real world driving, when you don't brake torque it, you'll do in the upper to mid 6-second range, which is plenty fast. But let me go ahead and take the Maverick out of its, actually I'm going to leave it in sport mode now because we'll talk about the handling in just a moment. But there are multiple drive modes. I've been driving it around in sport mode. The truck itself is a unibody chassis. Remember, this is built off of Ford's C2 architecture, something that it shares with the Ford Escape and the Ford Bronco Sport. So aside from it being, extra long, this truck is around 199 inches long, which is around 5 inches longer than the Santa Cruz. You essentially feel like you're driving around in just like a Bronco Sport, like a car-based SUV. Obviously, you get a better commanding view of the road. This has roughly 8.6 inches of ground clearance. I haven't had a chance to drive a Maverick Tremor, which offers almost an inch more ground clearance when you guys go for the Tremor package. The powertrain in general, this 2-liter turbo, it sounds horrible. It sounds basically like a vacuum cleaner. There's no sound whatsoever. So I'd say don't buy the 2-liter turbo for its better sound over the hybrid. They're both going to sound absolutely terrible. But the 8-speed auto, it's an ASIN design transmission, and for the most part, it shifts smoothly. It's just a little bit lethargic. It shifts really slowly, and then when I put my foot down, even in sport mode, I found that the truck still didn't shift all that quickly, even in sport mode. Although when you get it going, it starts shifting a little bit faster, although it's more shuddery. It's not the smoothest transmission in sport mode. Most people will just drive it around in normal mode, like how I just switched it into now. The steering in this truck is very light. It feels relatively agile, for a big, long, compact truck. I mean, it's long by, car standards, but it's by truck standards, this is actually a pretty short truck. That's precisely why people really like it. It drives more like a car. Put my foot down here. The all-wheel drive system is primarily front-wheel drive bias. The all-wheel drive system in the Tremor has a slightly different twin clutch unit with multiple drive modes, and also like an electronic locking rear diff, I believe, and also a 4-wheel drive lock mode. So that version of the Maverick is going to give you even more capability that this model kind of doesn't give you. But, just for driving around on the street, this is where the Maverick really shines because it has a good ride quality as well. The ride is smooth and comfortable, although there are times where I hit some, bigger bumps on the road, and it definitely, felt the impact a little bit harder. I imagine the Tremor is probably going to give you a slightly better ride quality with its all-terrain, with its chunky all-terrain tires. This model is definitely more street truck oriented, which is fine. The Maverick still has really nice driving demeanor. I'd say it's probably better to drive on the road versus the Santa Cruz because it has a conventional 8-speed auto. It just shifts a lot slower versus the dual clutch that's in the Santa Cruz. And then if you guys are looking at a Ridgeline, which is technically a class above, the Ridgeline is going to offer, even more car-like demeanor, although it's going to feel a little bit wider and taller versus this truck. Seats are also very comfortable. The ActiveX material, this faux leather material, has really nice plush padding in the seats, so they feel really soft and supple. They don't really hold you in place during spirited driving, but on longer road trips, I found the seats to be really supportive, and people are going to like them. They are 3-level heated, but Ford doesn't offer cooled seats on this truck. You do get, thankfully, a heated steering wheel, which is nice. In terms of visibility, I can see out of the front and the side pretty nicely. The view out of the back is pretty typical truck. I wish that Ford would offer a digital camera rearview mirror, or at least an auto dimming rearview mirror. I think it's a dealer accessory that my truck is lacking. But I mean, overall, just in day-to-day driving, the Maverick is still a really nice truck to drive. Look, there's one right there, a base model, which, I mean, Ford sold nearly 100,000 of these last year. I mean, I am starting to see more and more of these out there. In terms of the fuel efficiency, this is where, you know, you may want to consider the hybrid if that's more important for you. This truck is rated at 22 in the city, 29 on the highway. It has a 16.5 gallon fuel tank. You're looking at around 400 miles of range on a full tank. In my week's worth of testing, this truck averaged around 22 mpg in mostly city driving. On the highway, the best I could do was around 27 mpg, so not wonderful. The hybrid version, the Maverick, is going to do almost twice the mpg figure. Again, that comes at a cost. It'll be almost 2 seconds slower 0 to 60. You won't be able to get all-wheel drive grip. So you are making a pretty big sacrifice by going with the base 2-liter turbo, because the hybrid is going to get significantly better fuel efficiency. And that's where I think Ford could really just scrap the 2-liter turbo and just make the hybrid as standard with all-wheel drive available. That'll really improve the MPG. Now, of course, the hybrid is only going to max out at around 2,000 pounds of max towing. This model will max out at 4,000 pounds of max towing. But I question whether people who buy this truck are actually going to tow. I mean, you're going to buy a Ranger if you're going to tow. You're going to buy an F-150 if you're going to tow. Most people who buy a small truck like this don't necessarily tow. I think 2,000 pounds should be suffice. 4,000 is nice, but the Santa Cruz will tow up to 5,000 pounds. So overall, there's, you know, compromises depending on which engine, what's more important to you and whatnot. Overall, the Maverick is still definitely a nice driving truck. I can see why most people end up choosing this over the Santa Cruz. I am looking forward to seeing more competition come out. Ford is supposedly going to give the Maverick some updates for 2025. There's rumors of Ford even doing a performance street truck variant of the truck. With, you know, possibly, you know, the 2.3 EcoBoost would probably fit in this thing and give you even more power. But overall, I still very much like the Maverick. I think that this particular configuration, to me, the truck looks a little bit wimpy. I highly recommend looking at the Tremor or an FX4 off-road package, but just keep in mind, you go for those off-road packages and it definitely starts pushing this truck into territory where it could get you, you know, a step above, like a compact truck like a Ranger or a Tacoma, for those of you who are looking at the high-end versions. So with nearly 95,000 units sold in America last year, this is the best-selling compact truck that you're going to find. I mean, currently the segment is only this vehicle and the Hyundai Santa Cruz, but the Maverick did outsell the Santa Cruz by over 2 to 1. So clearly Ford is doing something extremely right with the Maverick, and it's why sales continue to improve. Dealers simply can't keep these on the lots, especially if you guys want the hybrid powertrain. That seems to be the one that Ford says they simply can't build enough of, even though the 2-liter turbo is the one that comes standard with all-wheel drive. And after spending the last week with the all-new or the current generation Maverick, I have to say this is still a very appealing truck. I mean, when the Maverick first came out, Ford touted out the fact that this thing started at around $20,000. It came standard with a hybrid powertrain. Now they've kind of shuffled things around, and the take rate, I want to say, is probably likely a 60-40. I haven't actually confirmed that with Ford, but I suspect that most people end up buying the 2-liter turbo, which is why Ford made it a standard. This is also easier to produce versus the hybrid powertrain because Ford simply can't get enough battery packs, supposedly. In terms of the driving dynamics, this truck continues to drive more like a car. 0 to 60 in the mid 6.5 second range is overachieving. It's going to be among the quicker accelerating vehicles in the class. The backseat is also surprisingly useful. The interior, while it's very utilitarian, there's nothing luxurious about it. It has lots of cheap hard plastic materials, but the brown interior color in this ActiveX, the seats are very comfortable and supportive. There's plenty of room on the inside. The bed, while it is small at 4.5 feet, is still very usable. And again, it's way more practical than any SUV or car or something like a Honda Civic. You could almost compare the two because they're almost kind of similar in price tag. And then in terms of the overall design, I think the truck has aged extremely well. It has a more conventional look, and I think that's why it appeals to more people versus the more lifestyle aspect of something like the Ridgeline and the Santa Cruz, although the Ridgeline is technically a class above this truck. Now, if you guys are looking to get your hands on a Maverick, Ford dealers still have trouble keeping them in stock from what I hear, especially if you want the hybrid version. And with the EcoBoost now standard, Ford has gradually increased the price of this truck over the years. Before, you used to be able to get these almost 2 years ago or 3 years ago at a price of just under $20,000. Now a base Maverick hybrid starts, or Maverick with the 2-liter turbo and the XL trim starts at around $24,000. So Ford has increased the price by about $4,000 in the last couple of years. It's really made the truck a lot more expensive. If you guys want the hybrid powertrain, it's like an extra $500 to go with the hybrid. The Lariat trim, which is the high trim, there's the XL, XLT, and then the Lariat. The Lariat starts at around $35,000. My test truck here, with very little options aside from the tow package, which is around 700 bucks, comes in around 37,330. So almost 38 grand for this truck is definitely getting expensive. And keep in mind, if you guys want like the Tremor off-road package or the FX4 off-road package, that's going to increase the price significantly to top out at around 43,000 with the Tremor package. So obviously at that price, you could easily get a Ranger. You could also move up to go get like a Colorado or a Tacoma, for example, which is actually a body-on-frame truck. But again, if you don't necessarily need that or all of the off-road goodies or all the luxury loaded features, you can still get a Maverick pickup truck for around 30,000 bucks, which I think is probably the sweet spot. Again, something like a fully loaded Civic or a Corolla is going to cost around that same price. But, you know, instead of that, a car, you could get a truck, which is probably why the Maverick remains appealing. I just want Ford to, you know, watch with the price increases, because if you're, you know, getting up to the mid $40,000 range at the top end, you may as well just get a compact or mid-sized truck instead, although those can get up to well over $50,000 now. Everything's just getting more expensive. And I also want Ford to expand the availability of the hybrid and eventually offer it with all-wheel drive, because I think that would do extremely well for them. So they're leaving a lot of money on the table. They're leaving buyers off the table by not offering the hybrid powertrain with all-wheel drive. But with all that said, hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the 2024 Ford Maverick in this Lariat trim. If you're also looking to see the latest vehicles I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at Redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.